Afternoon, everyone. We will begin our Educator Effectiveness Committee at this time. Roll call, please.
Dr. Bofi? Mr. Castile?
Here.
Dr. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Ellis? Ms. Ellis is not present. Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Mr. Mallory?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Ms. Warren-Jones? Mr. Rock? Ms. Boucher? Ms. Bonifant? We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item.
Your consent agenda is ready for approval, adding items 4.1 and 4.2, and 5.5 and 5.6.
Motion, Mr. Mallory. Yes, seconded. Mr. Castillo. Any objection? Without any objections, next item, please.
Your first item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of initial certification preparation pathway proposal submitted by Louisiana State University A&M. The recommendation is to approve.
Ms. Bocek, Mr. Mallory, seconded. Any objection? No objection, motion carried. Next item.
Your next item is on page 8, item 2.2, consideration of initial certification preparation pathway proposal submitted by Southern University A&M. The recommendation is to approve.
Motion, Mr. Mallory, seconded by Mr. Castillo. Any objection? No objection, motion carried. Next item.
Your next item is on page 22, item 2.4, consideration of a proposal for the mentor teacher training program submitted by Your next item is on page 15, item 2.3, consideration of initial certification preparation pathway proposal submitted by Teach St. Tammany. The recommendation is to approve.
Motion, please. Dr. Bofi, seconded. Ms. Bocek. Any objection? No objection, motion carried. Next item.
Now we're on page 22, item 2.4, consideration of a proposal for the mentor teacher training program submitted by St. Bernard Parish School System. The recommendation is to approve.
Motion. Dr. Bofi, seconded. Mr. Mallory, any objection? Without any objection, motion carried. Yes, Dr. Bofi. Yes, please.
How long does this program take?
Ms. Bocek, it's directed to you.
Same line kind of takes for everybody else. I'm saying that because I'm not exactly sure. But I know they've got to go through 2 of those assessments, all the stuff leading up to the assessments and such. So maybe superintendent, probably his boundary, because this one
She's
I'm
got
not
people
sure.
that handle that.
I know, I need to understand. I know we're continuing to struggle to get enough mentor teachers, and I know
We've made
that
really good progress on that.
we've made great progress. I think great
But not in the
progress.
right areas that we need is the problem.
Yes.
We're at,
Yeah, and
So
so
we have a presentation later about some of that you may have.
I'll hold my questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bofi. Any other questions? Any objections? Motion carried. Next item.
Your next item is on page 25, item 2.5, consideration of proposal for the Content Leader Training Program submitted by Curriculum Associates LLC. The updated recommendation is to table the item due to the provider pulling the application.
So moved.
Dr. Bofi, seconded. Mr. Mallory, any questions? Any objection? No objection, motion carried. Next item.
Your next item is on page 26, item 2.6, consideration of a proposal for the Early Childhood Ancillary Certificate Program submitted by Pedagogy Career College. The recommendation is to deny.
Motion.
So moved.
Dr. Bofi and Ms. Bocek, second. And any questions or objections? Motion carried. Next item.
Your next item is on page 27, item 3.1, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 746, Louisiana Standards for State Certification of School Personnel regarding mentor teacher waivers for the 2023-2024 school year. The recommendation is to approve as notice of intent.
Motion.
So moved.
Dr. Bofi, second. Mr. Castillo. Yes, Dr. Brown,
Yes,
please.
ma'am. Thank you. I'm going to ask Kim Cooper to come to the table here on this particular item. I think she has some good information to share with the board relative to progress that has been made in this particular area. Also, I know that after conversations with some of you, there's interest in further expansion of the waiver and additional flexibilities, much like this happened the last couple of years. And I want to just let the board know we're not opposed to that. It's just that what we were trying to do is to bring forward a recommendation that returns the policy to its original intent. Certainly we had more flexibilities that we recommended this board approved during the pandemic, but our goal here was to bring back the policy in line with the intent originally. But we are not opposed if it's the will of the board in a particular way to expand those flexibilities. But I think it's important that you hear from him, Ms. Cooper, because she does have some good data around this topic.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Good afternoon, Ann Cooper, LDOE. So this item is brought to you today in response to your request last year at this time, where a full waiver of the mentor credential was approved. And this was approved for the past 3 years of those mentor credential requirements. And last year, you asked my team to do 2 things and update you all at this time. And the first one was to increase the mentor pool. We've tripled the mentor pool and have done some really great things to do that I can share with you in a minute. And then the second thing was to bring either no waiver or a limited waiver so that we could transition back to the full implementation of the policy. So I'd like to just provide a little bit of historical context about this work. So in 2016, Bessie, with support of the Board of Regents, adopted regulations to strengthen teacher prep programs, which included candidates completing a year-long residency. And the expansion of those residencies to 1 year meant that having an effective mentor teacher supervising, guiding, providing observation, coaching, and feedback to that resident was more important than ever. Because of this, in 2018, Bessie approved a policy that recognized that work of mentors by creating a mentor credential. And it required teachers serving in a role of a mentor for them to have that credential. So for the past 5 years, LDOE and Bessie has implemented and improved the implementation of this credential. So the first thing was implementing a mentor program approval process for vendors who wanted to deliver the training for mentors. And so we created an RFA process, and then you all, of course, approved those programs like you did a few minutes ago, so that school systems have a list of providers to choose from when selecting a company to provide that program for their teachers. The second thing was we required and funded school systems to train at least one mentor at every CIR school. The third thing was providing a stipend to all of the mentors of teacher residents. We also supported the mentor stipend as part of the MFP, which was passed last legislative session. And then the last thing was collecting and responding to feedback from preparation programs and school systems and those teachers who went through the mentor training program. So one of the things we heard was that the training, the length of that training was taking too long. And so you all reduced the amount of trainings from 9 modules to 6 modules, and then the number of assessments that are required for someone to receive that credential from 4 to 2. We also honored previous relevant experience and updated policy that allows those educators with an educator, leader, or administrative certification, or if they were a trained NIET or class evaluator, or had that supervision of student teaching certification, those teachers could be a mentor without going through the program or completing those assessments. And then the last thing was adding a provisional certification for anyone who wanted to be a mentor but didn't hold the credential yet or wasn't eligible under that updated policy. And so that license can be held for a year for a teacher who's enrolled in a training program. So a lot of work has been done to increase the pool in about 1.5 years. the number of mentors has tripled. So as of December, we have more than 2,700 mentors with a need for about 1,200. So 1,500 more mentors than the need. And then you also asked me to prepare for a transition back to the full implementation of this policy. And so to do that, we analyzed our mentor and resident data to look at any needs for mentors in certain content areas or certain geographic regions. And based on that data, we do not have enough mentors in certain areas of content, and so that is why the limited waiver is being brought to you today in the areas that do need it. We also looked at where preparation programs operate to ensure that in that area there were enough mentors for the need. And if anyone has any questions about this, I'm happy to answer as well.
Board members, Dr. Bovee.
I really appreciate that. So I have, I understand the 2,700 and thank you and congratulations on the success. I mean, this is, as we're getting more and more people into the field who are coming from alternative pathways, I think it's great that our school systems have these trained mentors and are ready for people who haven't come through a traditional path. I feel like these mentors are an incredible asset to the traditional programs that we have and help to really put a fine point and get people the experience they need in the classroom. So I'm excited about 2,700, right? Like that's something that I think we absolutely need to celebrate. I do hear the struggle around there being a match to the content area. And then I know we have made that even more complex by pushing our districts to put students in schools where they're most likely to get hired, right? Which I think is the right thing. I haven't changed my mind about that. I believe it's the right thing. That's where they're getting jobs. We want them prepared for the jobs they get. They're more likely to stay in the profession. And so, given all of these things, it's like, how do we strike that right balance? And so I'm getting feedback that we're not quite there with the balance, and it's because of the match. Right? People are not in the places that we need them to be. So I think it's the first question is around what else do we need to do to keep this number growing and to make sure that it's a match in terms of the mentors are in the content area we need and in the places we need, right? So that's my question. I know the ESSER dollars have been a boom in terms of helping with something like this. But that money is not going to be around forever. So what are the other strategies that we're going to put in place for it? And where's the sweet spot, right? To give people a runway to be successful, but also for this part not to be punitive. So, and then it's the time. I mean, I asked Ms. Boucher because I know since I've been on Bessie, the job of a teacher has only gotten harder, right? The needs of kids have escalated in the last 11 years. And so where it's harder to get people to do more things when they have so many needs that they have to meet.
I agree. I think, having a strong mentor with our residents really sets them up for success to enter our workforce and to retain them in the workforce. I do agree we have a way to go to make sure that we have enough mentors statewide in every content area so that there's choice too for preparation programs. So I absolutely agree. I think the things that helped triple that number are some of the things that we can continue to do. We really did a lot of targeted outreach to school systems and to people who would be eligible for the credential to let them know, hey, you already meet the requirements per policy. You do not have to go through this training program. You can submit your mentor credential form. So I think that helped a lot because a lot of those educators didn't realize that they met the requirement. And so I think that definitely helped. I think making the stipend permanent in the MFP helped as well. But to your comment about finding dollars past ESSER, I'll say prior to the ESSER dollars, we were funding this with other dollars through our Super App process. And so ESSER dollars didn't exist then. We were using other funding sources. I would imagine we would continue to do that. We did have several school systems that did take advantage of that additional funding to train additional mentors or to get them the credential. Some of them, paid for that credential fee on their behalf to really even build a pool within their own school system too.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Davis.
Okay, so there's a credential fee that is associated with them doing the mentor thing. And so I guess I'm struck by the fact that we have the ability to know who already has certifications that would allow that teacher to be a mentor teacher without doing the assessments and without doing the modules, right? So, because you said that we send them a letter, it says, hey, you already qualify to be a mentor teacher. Why can't we just ask them, do you want this certification added, and then do it ourselves? Like, why do we just do that for them?
No, I think that's great feedback, especially for our certification process as we're trying to improve it. So I appreciate that.
Right, I mean, or even there's, anytime they go in to have to do something with their certification, if there's like a notification or an inbox that says, hey, you're already re-upping this certification, we noticed you also qualify to be a mentor teacher, click this button and boom, right, that gets added to your list. And so I think, because I saw an email from a teacher who's in the elementary school that my kids went to, and she is a wonderful teacher. She has that old teacher, student teacher certification, whatever it was called, and she's just like, I'm not doing another form. Like, she's like, why can't I just already do this? I should not have to go through that process again. And so that might be something easy that we could do to make make this process easier. My other question, though, is kind of around this process. So if I were running a teacher preparation program at a four-year university or one of the alternate preps, how do I know who mentor teachers are in the state? What does that process look like?
We're actually about to release a list that says that. So prep programs would have a list of everyone with the mentor credential, their names, what school system they're located in, and the certification areas that they have. So they would be able to use that list.
Okay, and so really kind of the onus is getting passed on to the teacher prep programs in terms of like, so we might have 2,700 mentors right now that have the certification, but we know that not all of them are going to be available in a given year, right, for whatever reason. So I'd just be curious, maybe when we get some of the providers, if they offer public comment, like I'd like to know how many phone calls do you have to make to be able to gain a mentor for one of your students, because I think that if there are ways for us to think about how to make that an easier process for them too, that's something that we should focus on.
I think too, as we build out our, building out a new certification system for applicants, and that could be a component of that system that houses that information that maybe university partners could have like live access to that type of information. I don't want to overpromise that because I don't know what legally we can do, but it's something we can explore.
Well, what they usually do is the provider, whether it's a university or a teacher prep program, they contact the district and say, we want a place where the applicant comes to the district and says, I'm an I teach. Will you hire me? And the condition of hiring, we have to supply the mentor. Or if I'm with LRCE or I'm at UNO, whatever it is, so that the alternate provider or the university works with the system, and the only way they can place a person there is that the system agrees, or the school agrees to provide the mentor. So that's how it's done right now. So sometimes the person themselves who wants to be a teacher and they live in a certain area, and they're in I-Teach, for example, will approach us or approach a school system and say, will you hire me? And then if we say yes, then we have to provide the mentor with it. I mean, it's a condition of their employment.
And so I'm just thinking about trying to figure out ways to make it easier for you to find those mentors and for, for districts and then teacher prep programs. And thinking about it, I just wonder even if there is a way, as we're building out a new certification process, I would assume that there's a way for teachers to log on to that and to look at their certifications and to find out kind of when things are expiring, or hopefully that would be the case in the new system. And if teachers were able to interact with it, would there be a way for them to turn on the mentor certification for an upcoming year? So let's say that I know, or turn it off, right? Like, so if I know that I'm going to be having a child in the middle of the school year and I don't want to waste a school district's time or teacher prep time, we're answering the phone calls, right? To say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do it this year. If there was a way for us to keep that list of mentor teachers as most up to date and accurate as possible, like, I think that would go a long way for helping us figure out how to do this more efficiently, right? Because it is a great, everybody I've talked to said it is a great thing that we are doing this, and we know it's probably going to help us keep new teachers in the classroom because they've had this level of mentoring. So I just think we want to be able to figure out how to make it easier and better.
Thank you. Ms. Bocek.
Yeah, and I have a couple of questions. You said the ones who are qualified, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought to be a mentor, you had to have gone through the program and successfully completed it, or provisionally be in the program, in the process, or have that old supervisor of student teaching, and that was it. That these other avenues are ones that you can get a waiver for. So if I have a master's, or if I have 2 years of highly effective, a national board certification, that's in a waiver spot. So they don't automatically get to be mentors. Even if you get your EDL or your master's degree, you don't automatically qualify. Or am I wrong with that?
So
That's the way I'm reading this document.
there's two things here. So for the waiver that's happened over the past 3 years, you were correct. They could receive the waiver if a principal recommended that person and had the 2 years of highly effective ratings or something else. But then the policy that was updated last year said what you said second, which is you can go through the program or you can meet one of these requirements, which could be
So the
evaluations.
EDL is not a waiver piece, you can automatically get it. Because I'm just reading on page 29, it just lists those other three, doesn't list the rest, but okay. This is the problem and the reality right now. You're going, as a district, first of all, a mentor needs to be school-based. So when you place a resident, which is the old student teacher, you can't, when you place them at a school and in a classroom, that mentor has to be in that classroom or in that school. So there's a mismatch, like Dr. Goldie said at times, where you might get a whole lot of mentors, but not necessarily in the school or in subject areas where you're placing either the resident or the person on a practitioner license through an alternate program. Like if I need a secondary social studies teacher in one school, and I only have a mentor for social studies at a different school, I can't match those two because they must be school-based. So while we may have more mentors than we have people who need mentoring, they're not always in the right place. All right, having said that, the other practical part is we're constantly approaching teachers, and many of them are the same ones. We're encouraging them to be teacher leaders, which takes an awful lot of time as they conduct TLCs, they do the data-driven meetings and such, which is like a job in and of itself, as well as their teaching. We're approaching almost the same people to be a literacy coach, because now we're into the literacy coaches. We have content leaders that we go and approach people to be trained in. And then we have the mentors, and that's just 4 off the top of my head in the same school. And you're competing with the best people in the school to be one or more of all of these things. So to get them mentor trained, it may sound like, and Dr. Goldie, like they said, I have I have some people who do this, and I also have some friends in the audience who texted one of my people to say, why don't you text Spoche and tell them the answer to the question I'm supposed to ask. They're looking out for me, and the answer is, most programs can get mentors through in 12 to 15 months if they complete the required Bloom Board assessment piece. The state has 6 learning modules that take about 6 to 7 hours each to complete in either a face-to-face, virtual, or combo format. Bloom Board has 2 micro-credentials that can be completed by the individual. Each credential can be completed in about a semester. We suggest completing the first micro-credential in the first semester and the second micro-credential in the second semester. So thank you to a friend of mine in the audience here who used to be a proud member of our school system who contacted her former colleague to please give her poor superintendent the right answer. So, you know, I just wanted to give you that. But the point being that we, in that same school, we have a need for so many different teacher leader types. And mentoring is an extremely important, but so is the literacy coach and the content leader and the teacher leader. And they can't, the same person just can't do them all. So
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we
Spoche,
need a
well
little
said.
bit more time to implement this before we take waivers away.
Good points. Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Okay, just thank you. I have a quick question and remind me because I'm pretty sure we've discussed this over the years, but I can't recall. So do we have comprehensive and ongoing data across the state for every teacher who qualifies, every teacher who we would really want to be a mentor teacher, the reasons why, like specific barriers why that teacher is not choosing to do it at a certain time? Like, how in it are we with understanding from teachers themselves what the barrier is for that teacher? And then, of course, we can discern what those trends are then, but I'm actually just curious how in-depth our data is.
We provide a annual survey to our mentor teachers that collects data, but in terms of the barriers, that feedback that we received, I don't think is ongoing in the sense that we received feedback that there were too many modules, too many assessments, so we fixed that. We, decreased the amount of modules and assessments. I do think to, the conversation earlier, we do have this balance of wanting to increase roles on the pipeline for that teacher leadership, but oftentimes those people are multiple things. And so I agree, that has been something that we have heard from mentor teachers is I'm also something else, like I'm also a content leader. So in terms of ongoing feedback on the barriers, that is not an annual process, but we do have that annual current mentor teacher survey.
Yeah.
We get feedback on that.
Current data from current mentor teachers is important. I'm asking about candidates. I'm asking about what do we know about who we want to be mentor teachers and why they're not raising their hand to do it, right? And how do we sort of get a better feedback loop on that, because that can help us widen the pipeline. I understand there's a set of things we know about our current mentors, but we need to widen the pipeline. So how do we better get data on who the next 100, 200, 300, ideally, if we could wave a magic wand and get every teacher in the state who qualifies to actually raise their hand to do this, what would be the top 3 reasons why they don't do it? And then could we use that data to inform the next stage of the strategy?
Are you waiting for an answer?
Yeah, I want to know. I'm curious.
I think that's great feedback to continue to get that data so we know what other barriers exist to help reduce or eliminate them.
Do we have a wish list? Like, do we know right now, if we could, the next 1,000 teachers we want to be mentors?
We could, the list that we use to pull to send those emails are those people that we know would be eligible. I would imagine those are people we could reach out to.
And we might find new reasons why, right? The profession is changing, the conditions of life. Like, I'm very curious sort of how that data might inform our strategy.
I think also, Ms. Jones, like compensating these people is making a difference too. And so we're actually compensating them. because they were saying that's a lot of work, and rightfully so, where's the, so I think that that was a good move that we made over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think you raised a good point, that is, how can we think about recruitment in this area? So I mean, that gives us something to go back and think about.
Thank you. Any other questions, Dr. Davis?
Yep, this is the last one. I just, in light of what we discussed in the legislative update, I would like to say that this is kind of striking, that a resident who has 4 years of an education-centered degree, we will require him or her to be supervised for a year, but down the hall, there may be an unsupervised person with an associate's degree or a 4-year non-education degree teaching in the same hallway. Like, that bears, like, if we think that this matters, it matters.
Thank you. It matters. Yes, please. I'm sorry.
So, sorry. I think, so I'm not a mentor teacher. I'm not. I coach track. I know all that there is to know about moving the athlete body and coaching. And so I coach other coaches because I'm a head coach. Anyway, point of the matter is, when you're talking about this, I was like, why am I not a mentor teacher? And she asked, why are you not a mentor teacher? I don't know. I actually would be like, for me, I do think that they're different roles. Like, I don't want to be a content leader. That doesn't sound fun to me. I love math, but do I want to sit in front and really digest and go through which modules and what order and which standards and matching all that? That does not sound fun to me. That teaching it to the students sounds fun. Activities and all the fun things sound fun, but actually being a content leader does not sound fun to me. So I think that when you ask, like, why are teachers not doing it? I think that what happens a lot of times is, I think that a mentor teacher is a match for me because it kind of matches coaching. I enjoy coaching students. I enjoy working with my assistant coaches, but a lot of the positions, when teachers think of being promoted, it kind of gets them away from being the teaching part of it, and mentor teaching actually kind of gives you that opportunity. But I don't know that we know how, all of us, or even know. It becomes kind of those same people who know that this is the areas of leadership, and they are intentionally and specifically looking for areas of leadership that find out about the mentor teaching, and so you end up tapping into the same 3 or 4 people at each school. I don't know the answer, but I will tell you that there are more me's out there who are like, oh, yeah, that does sound fun. But we don't know about it because content leader doesn't sound fun. PLC leader does. I have been asked several times, do you want to lead your PLC? No. Like, it's not a match for me. And there are people who that is a match for, but that is not a match for me. But mentor is a match. So I guess it's about figuring out how to get out the message that this is an opportunity for people that looks a little bit different than the other opportunities.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan. Such a great coaching lesson.
Maybe we found an advocacy role.
Absolutely.
I second that. Is it a motion? There's funding in the MFT.
Thank you. That was good. Any other questions from board members right now?
Well, I wonder what the best next step is relative to the policy. So you have a policy proposal. What if you guys put something forward, trying to go back to where we were? We've gotten feedback on it.
I would say that's limited, right, Em? So do you want to explain, maybe help Ms. Cooper explains how this is a limited waiver. And again, we're not opposed to more flexibility, but it was a return to the original, not the full original.
Okay.
Yeah, and also after public comments, we may be able to have some other information too that would come forward. But
We
go
don't
ahead.
have any public comment yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go back.
Yeah, we have a handful. Yeah?
I would just add, you all had asked for data on the number of mentors per residence, and so the data here is any certification area where there were at least a ratio of 2 to 1 mentor to teacher is what we brought to you today. So this would be elementary grades, ELA, middle and high school, art, and foreign language. those certification areas had at least a 2-to-1 ratio, so that's the data that we pulled for you all. So anything other than that, I believe that the data says we would need a waiver in order to provide mentors for every need.
All right, perfect, thank you. We'll go into public comment. Thank you, Al, and we'll have you back if there are any other questions. We have public comments. We have a couple of people who oppose the recommendation and do not wish to speak, and that's Dr. Katrina Jordan, Northwestern State University. And then we have Margaret Weston, I want to say Piku, but I'm not quite sure, Louisiana State University. Are you here, Ms. Piku? Is that how you pronounce your last name? Pickley? Okay, Pickley. Oh, I did too. Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, up on deck, Marlene Beard, Dr. Mara Lovett, and Dr. Paula Calderon. Please come forward. Ms. Marlene. Please identify yourself, ladies, and the agency you are representing. Ms. Marlene?
Hi. Is it on?
Yes.
My name is Marlene Beer from UL Lafayette, and I'm the Director of Teacher Clinical Experiences. Well, I could address some of the others. I'll just share right now what UL is facing. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. Starting in the fall, UL is anticipating 137 residents, which is a big number because our numbers are increasing. But of that number, the areas that they want to eliminate, that's 98 of my residents that possibly I'll be able to place some, but not all. Another consideration is that preparation providers are not required, but kind of required, to place residents in high-need schools, and this is a priority for LDOE. There are very few certified mentors in high-need schools. Even though the list was expanded, and I have that list in my database, and they have included more schools, which was a huge help, very grateful for that. But even with that, there's still not enough mentors to meet my focus areas. In Lafayette Parish, the only way that I am able to place residents with certified mentors is, in many cases, to double up, meaning that the mentor will have a residency 1 and a residency 2 in one given semester. It works because the residency 1 is not there full-time. The residency 2 is. Also, I did reach out to the my HR contact, which is our largest area. We place 2/3 of our residents in Lafayette Parish, and I'd like to share her response, and she's not here today. She said, I have about 30 waivers right now for residents. There are several waivers in the areas they want to eliminate. Keeping in mind that if we would not have doubled up on some mentors, I would have probably had to do another 8 to 10 waivers for sure. For your information, I have even more waivers than that because of the mentors I need for my practitioner licensed teachers. So all of the mentors are not for preparation providers. She said, we will have enough mentors. We will not have enough mentors, especially when it comes to mentors for practitioner licensed teachers. Unfortunately, there are more uncertified teachers in high-need schools, and most of the time, this is where we have the least certified mentors. I have to have those certified mentors to mentor the first-year PL teachers. This year, I have done 63 waivers total to support UL residents and PL teachers. That's Lafayette Parish. Simply put, if waivers are not allowed in these areas, there will not be enough mentors available. The only way I will be able to place residents is to use waivers. So I do have a question or concern, or better yet, a nightmare. What will I do if I have residents I can't place because there are no certified mentors in the aforementioned focus areas and waivers are no longer available? That truly is a nightmare for me. And I have checked the data. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the same data that she was referring to, but I have a list that was sent out last year listing all the teachers statewide that are qualified to be mentors. When I drill down on the data, names are repeated for each time they meet. If they have NIET, they're listed. If they have the training, they're listed. One name was listed like 18 times. So it doesn't reflect the actual number of mentors available. So I also want to mention that we lose mentors because of they accept instructional leader or they become an assistant principal. I'll make all my placements, and that's blood, sweat, and tears, and then soon, not long after that, I start getting the emails, I can't mentor. I have one that's already told me she's applying, one of my best, she's applying for a position, so I won't have her. So again, I want to say we won't have enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beard. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Beard. Yes, Mr. Morris?
I heard you say, I think I heard you say that you had 138 residents now, and that was a leap. So, did I get that right?
I have 137 that have applied to
Okay.
start in the fall. Well, that also includes my current residency ones that will be residency too.
Right.
Yes.
You said that was a leap.
That's an increase,
Right.
yes.
So how big of an increase is that? And since you said it was a leap, what do you attribute that to?
Crawling out of COVID. COVID really hit us hard, and we've done a lot of recruitment, and we're doing Educators Rising, we're doing a lot. And we are gradually seeing, I don't know if I said leap, but it is an increase. And it was like a hooray.
I was just fishing for if you found the magic.
When I do, I will share.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's hard work.
Quickly interject. Are you having more middle and high school teachers or are they predominantly elementary?
It's predominantly elementary, and of the 93, 64 are elementary.
Right. So any secondary, math, science?
I have three.
Three.
Three math, one science. I have a lot of social studies, a lot, you know, and English, which the secondary ELA. And I do have several, and I think I have 14 scheduled for the fall. Art, I have 5, and I do not have available an art teacher who is mentor qualified, and I have 5 that are starting in August. Yes.
Thank you for your information. Appreciate it. Next on deck, Dr. Lovett.
I'm Mara Levin. I'm the Director of School of Education at the University of Louisiana Monroe. I'm also the President of LACTE, so I'm representing the 20 IHEs in the state of Louisiana. And so just to add on to the conversation, we are talking about waivers for resident mentors. This policy that's being proposed is not going to affect practitioner license. It's only going to affect those of us in undergraduate programs that have resident mentors. And so the ones being cut are elementary, English, foreign language, and art. So those are the ones that are potentially on the chopping block with this proposed policy. So that's what I'm addressing with this. So we have made progress. There has been an increase in the number of mentors. We are a mentor provider. We get people to take the course at ULM, and we work with our partners to do that. And there is growth, but it is not sufficient. It's not enough yet. And so as LACTE president, I wanted to see if this affected not just my institution, but our 20 IHEs. And so I sent out a survey, and I tasked our IHEs with getting with their partners, their K-12 district partners, getting with their field experience coordinators, and determining what will this do to you in the 23-24 year. So the results of that is what I want to share with you today. So 85% of my IHEs will not have enough mentors credentialed in those areas specifically to meet the need of the incoming residents for the fall. Okay. Of those, only 2 told me that they have enough credentialed mentors in high-need schools to meet the threshold that teacher prep quality rating system, our evaluation system for IHEs, have to follow in order to get a high rating on our report card, our version of a report card. So we are under a constraint here with this. All of our IHEs, 85%, are going to be at a deficit without these waivers in place. Additionally, I think it's important to note that we are nationally accredited. We have a process in place, unlike non-university providers, in which we are required through SACS and our CAPE accreditation to co-select our mentors with our K-12 district partners with criteria that is rigorous. I can read you the standard if you want to hear it from Kate, but we are to do that in conjunction with our K-12 district partners. And the list is extensive of what those mentors have to be and what they have to have and how they meet those qualifications to be a mentor to our residents in a traditional program. We already have that in existence. We already answer for that. And our institutions are CAPE accredited. So with that in mind, we add on the requirement of this mentor credential, which is another barrier for who we might co-select. And so with that in mind, we are asking for an extension for this waiver. Specifically for us, I know you mentioned your art. Foreign language is a major problem for us because foreign language in the data that was collected by the LDOE was not disaggregated by French and Spanish and other languages. It was put collectively together. So I can't put my Spanish ed student in a French class just because it happens to be down the road, right? No, they'll have to drive to Alexandria to get the closest mentor, and we're in Monroe. So just be aware that even though the report shows that there is accessibility, we are talking about a higher need of accessibility to our campuses. Specifically because residents are undergraduates, many of them live on campus. They have to be able to drive to their placement and drive back to the university. They have classes they have to take in residency 1 and residency 2. They cannot go out 90 miles away just because it's in our region and still come back to class. First of all, for time constraints. Second of all, for financial barriers. Our students are students. They don't necessarily have a vehicle that they can rely on to get them that far back and forth multiple days a week. So with that in mind, we are requesting that the mentor waiver be full for all content areas and continue in the next year.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Chambers.
Curious, we've got some good numbers from ULL. I was wondering if you have any numbers statewide that you're able to share with us as far as what that teacher pipeline looks like going forward when higher ed.
You're asking specifically how many residents we have coming in to the fall?
Right. And how does that compare, historically as well?
I will say the numbers are increasing. We are seeing a rise too. We do Educators Rising on our campus and several others do as well. And with that, we are seeing more incoming freshmen. We are seeing more people choose education. I have signing ceremonies all over the state, which I'm very excited about, for sign-ons for these high school seniors saying they're coming to do teacher education. So we are seeing an increase in traditional programs. I do not have hard numbers.
Is there the same question to you? Is there anything specific you attribute that to, that increased interest?
I would say the increased attention to middle school and high schools. We have talked to our mentors and our principals. Please advocate for future teachers. It's in your best interest to have teachers in your schools. And so with that, we've partnered with those schools and we've started Educators Rising chapters. We're bringing high school students and middle school students to our college campuses and showing them what it means to be at an institution of higher ed. Many of them would be first generation, you would make a great teacher. Those are the things we are getting our people to say.
Okay, and so you would basically acknowledge educators rising as the,
Absolutely.
recommended,
Particularly for diversifying the field.
that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Paul?
Hello again, I'm Paula Calderon, Dean of the College of Education at Southeastern. And thank you again for this opportunity to be in front of you. One of the questions that someone asked was reasons that people choose not to be a mentor. If I'm a third grade teacher and I go into the fourth grade, I probably want a year off because it may be a testing grade or it's just a new prep. And I need to get my feet wet, impress my principal, and so you know what, I don't need that extra responsibility. Dr. Bofi, I believe, asked how many phone calls. Some of the responses we get are personal reasons, I don't want to be a mentor this year, I've changed to a new grade, I'm no longer at that school and I really like to get adjusted to my new school, I have too many responsibilities, or I'm serving as a mentor in a post-baccalaureate program or for another program and I'm really too busy to have a resident. And we don't like to double up if at all possible, especially with another preparation program. Dr. Pickley from LSU is sitting behind me and we will call each other and say, did you get my mentor? Because we share districts. And then if you have an alternate certification, a non-university program, they're in all of our districts. We place our residents, our undergraduate residents, in February and March. Ms. Cooper mentioned that a list would be coming out soon. 2,700 mentors is absolutely fantastic, but 2,700 credentialed mentors does not mean 2,700 interested, available, and willing mentors. And and in the right place, exactly, and in the right place. Just because there's an available mentor in Monroe does not mean that it will help me in Hammond. And so if I had a map of the preparation providers, a map of the 2,700 mentors, all of their content areas, and then who said yes. It's not 2,700 every single year because of that. Dr. Davis stole some of my thunder about automatic mentor teachers, so thank you, Dr. Davis, I got to take that off my list. Let's see, Dr. Levitt talked about CIR schools and high need schools. Recently we had 3 mentor teachers say, I'm sorry, Southeastern standards are too high and they require too much of their residents and their mentor teachers. I would rather be a mentor teacher for somebody else. Thank you for calling, click. Those are the answer to your questions. I don't know what we do differently, but that was what was said to my clinical faculty member. Let's see, also, the universities are SAC-COC credentialed because we're here in the South and that is our institutional accreditation. All of our faculty must be SAC-COC credentialed. The university supervisors hired by the university that we put in the field are SAC-COC credentialed faculty members in the content area and in the certification area and in the grade level. We already have a quality check. If we have to have mentor teachers for the non-university post-bac programs, that's their quality check. Our quality check is that credentialed mentor hired by the university, and then as Dr. Lovett said, our co-selection required by our national accreditation. If the Department of Education says, here's a list of mentors, and it's not co-selected by the principal and the university, we get a ding. We get dinged on that. And I believe I had 75% of my mentor teachers were under a waiver in this school year. And I will have about the same amount, which is about 95, 97 for the 23-24 school year. That's how many waivers I will need. And that is about it, since I have 15 seconds.
Sorry.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we continue the same way we had last year with no exceptions.
Second, Dr. Davis. Wait, somebody,
Clarify that would mean that we would be amending the policy on page 29 to delete 3, is that correct?
Yes.
Ash?
Let's, 1 second. Mr. Morris has a question before we get clarity on what's happening.
Just curious, as I understand it, basically the department used a threshold of 2-to-1 ratio. That was the criteria that they used to reinstate the waivers. And I understand the position that you take, and I agree personally. But if 2 is not the right threshold, what is the right threshold, or what criteria would you recommend to restore the waiver?
Can I say something like, just in thinking about this? I mean, Ryan, as we look at this, I think that we need mapping, right? Like, I think that we need mapping surrounding geographic location of mentors. And then it also needs to be maps that are specific to the subject matter and the grade level that they're teaching in, right? Because that's the big crux of what they're saying, is that when we're looking at these things, we're not always thinking about the location of the mentor as well as the content area that's needed. Like, so I think that that would be one thing that would be helpful before we can get into, do we need, you know, a 3-to-1 match? It needs to be a 3-to-1 in map within a reasonable location of a higher education educator program, right? Like, does that make sense?
And it would, you have to take into consideration the online post-baccalaureate programs who are also in our region. And so if, I'll just make it up, if I teach or Teach Tangi is already using a mentor for their post-bac program, then that mentor says, no, sorry, I don't need somebody in my room full-time because I have these post-bac mentors down the hall who are hired. So you need to include all the preparation programs.
And
Let's get back to,
I think a valid point that they made that I don't want to just gloss over is that in evaluating all of the teacher prep programs, whether it's the university programs or private providers, when you're scoring the rubric to evaluate the program, a part of it, 25% of it used to be, I think, still 25%, is placing your candidates in high-need schools. So, like these, you know, professors have just said, when you go to a high-need school, you tend to have less mentor teachers there. So when you're looking at where they are, you may have more mentors in a higher performing school, which is an A or a B school with not a very low poverty rate. Well, if these people place a resident teacher there, that's a ding on their program. And if the private provider places one there, that's a ding on their program, because it's not a high-need school. So to take one indicator in isolation, I think is wrong again. We have to look holistically at the whole process. We want to help. We want to do one thing in one area to look at it, an indicator, but how does it fit into what we did when we evaluate the program as a whole? So it's more complex than one specific indicator. That's why we need to study it.
okay. Mr. Morris, did you receive the answer? You need it? I know we like circled around, but I want to come back.
Yeah, so we have good feedback. Just if there's anything you guys want to add to it.
I think I've said everything.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Brown?
I just want to make a point of clarity that there was an original policy passed by the board in 16, 17, I don't remember the year, but you know, words like we're putting certain groups on the chopping block, or we're trying to eliminate, want to make sure everyone understands that's not true. We had a waiver that was in place for the last couple of years. So we're just saying that there was a limited waiver here. So we weren't trying to eliminate people, we were just going back to the original and not applying the waiver. But if we apply the waiver again, we're perfectly fine with that. We were just trying to take the board back in a limited way to the original policy, which means at some point, if we're going to keep waiving, we're going to have to think about, is the original policy the right policy?
Thank you. Can we get clarity on the motion, please? Yes, Dr. Davis, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say that I would like just a note of whenever the teacher prep accountability measure comes back to us, like to discuss and evaluate how our teacher prep programs are working, I would like to know, I would like a geographic numbers, like I guess maybe by parish, of the number of mentors that we have in high need schools. So because I mean, it may very well be, I mean, first of all, that seems crazy to me because we're holding teacher preparation providers accountable for something they have no real control over, which is whether or not a teacher in a high need school decides to be a mentor. And so I think that it would be worthwhile, given all the things that we have learned today and through this process, to have a conversation around that part of the accountability system whenever it comes back to us.
Thank you. Ms. Fletcher, can you repeat, please, the motion?
The motion is to grant the same waiver that we granted last year with no exceptions. The reality is to remove from the proposed, remove number 3.
Yeah, so you're
And
approving,
just do G where it adds in the year 23, 24.
approving the proposed policy revisions, amending it to remove number 3.
Any objections? Thank you, motion carried. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 40, item 5.1, consideration of executive session regarding discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of a person. The recommendation is to convene executive session.
Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Garvey and Dr. Bovee, seconded. Is there any public comment on board, is there any public comment or board discussion on this matter before we take a roll call? In order to, for this motion to pass, 2/3 acclamation vote of members present is required. May I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Bovee?
Yes.
Mr. Castillo?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Holloway?
Here, yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Orange Jones? Mr. Rock? Ms. Boucher? Ms. Ellis is not in attendance.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I will advise the audience that we will be in executive session for the length of time necessary for the discussion. No votes will be taken while the board is in executive session. All votes will be made in public. Additionally, public disclosure is not required of matters discussed in a properly held executive session. At this time, the board meeting stands in recess to go into executive session. Bye. Motion to reconvene the board meeting.
You're making a motion to defer.
Mr. Garvey. Seconded, Mr. Halloran. Next item, please.
You will get a quorum.
Your next item is on page 41, item 5.2, consideration of a records review regarding the reinstatement of Louisiana teaching credential appropriate to the credentials of Mr. Donald Inslee. The recommendation is to grant, deny, or defer.
Madam Chairman, I move that we defer until it's brought back to us by SSA.
Thank you. Seconded, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Any opposition? Motion carried. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 60, item 5.3, consideration of a records review regarding the issuance of a Louisiana teaching credential appropriate to the credentials of Mr. Kevin Hamrick. The recommendation is to grant, deny, or defer.
Move to grant.
Second, Ms. Boche. Any objection? No objection. Motion carried. Next item.
Your next item is on page 75, item 5.4, consideration of a records review regarding the issuance of a Louisiana teaching credential appropriate to the credentials of Ms. Deanna Smithson. The recommendation is to grant, deny, or defer.
Move to grant.
Second. I need a second. On this one, Ms. Boche. Any objection? No objection. Motion carried.
That concludes your agenda.
Yay.